Leo named a very strong team. Was that always your intention to name such a strong team?
Yeah. Well, every week we're looking that we play games. We're looking to name a strong team is the plan. But yeah, no. Like you think about it, like with this game, Ulster next week. We may make some changes going into that. We'll see obviously how this weekend goes. And then you're into knockout games after that. So we need to get players up to speed as quick as possible. We've tried to make it competitive in training, and the players have worked hard over the course of the last number of months. Huge amount of work, as we talked about, trying to get things back up and running. So we're nearly there. Which is great to see, hopefully. But yeah, no, everyone's excited about getting going at this point.
Absolutely. And what's the story with Tyke Furlong?
Tyke, yeah, he was due to be involved, but he just tweaked his back during the week. So yeah, he was actually earlier on this morning. So hopefully he should be back in the mix now next week.
And Munster have named their 2 South African World Cup winners. I assume you've seen the Munster team. What will they bring to what's your plan for them?
It's been quite a challenge, really. Like in terms of we haven't seen them play with Munster before, so we're not 100% sure what that's going to look like. So yeah, we know they're 2 very good players. We all saw them at the World Cup. Like Damien de Linde, he's very, very skillful footballer, strong in terms of his running game, but he's also got some subtlety to his game. Good footwork. I remember actually seeing him first. I was at a Crusaders game against the Stormers, and I remember him even from that game. It was probably 2014, and you could see like he was a very good footballer. He scored a good try that day. RG Snyman, I saw him play for South Africa 20s years ago, and he's sort of he's been on the radar ever since. Like he's obviously a hugely big man. Came through then obviously in South Africa, and he's still very young. So for a lock, that is not as young as one of our locks that's stepping into the team. Young in comparison to say Scott Fardy, the other lock. But yeah, no, it should be a good battle out there. We know it's a huge game for Munster in particular because of where they sit in their conference and trying for them to get ahead of Edinburgh. So I'm sure they'll be building strongly for the game as ever. So it's going to be a great test for our guys.
One final component, is there more pressure on Munster going into tomorrow's game?
I don't know. I think in terms of what's at stake, it's every time the players go out and perform. There's the internal competition in terms of selection that both teams will have, and then when you bring both camps together for what's at stake, because after this block of games that we have, then you're pretty quickly into trying to finish out last year's Six Nations, which I'm sure all the Irish qualified players will want to be playing in, and then they're into that November series and whatever that looks like. So it's a hugely exciting block of games that we have, or certainly the players have to look forward
to. Leo, there's one person who hasn't had a game since February, and that's Andrew Brace. What do you know about him? What do you expect? And will they go easy on him?
On Andrew Brace?
Yeah.
Sorry, I missed the start of the question. The question was about Andrew Brace not having played, I think, is what I got from it.
Yeah, no, it's his first game to referee since February.
Yeah. We think Andrew Brace is a very good referee. He's one of the certainly top Irish referees. I think he'll be fine. Our guys are familiar with him as well. He's been even some of the referees have been into training as well over different periods. So, we've no issues there at all.
Leo, it's obviously been a month since you played your last game, and you've spoken before as well about how difficult sometimes it is to swap in and out guys given the size of your squad, and you just spoke there about how much you wanted to have the strongest possible team back for the restart, given how quickly games are going to start coming up. So given all of that and all of the strength that you have in numbers and all of that, just how difficult was that team selection for today?
Yeah, well, it would be worse if you had no players available. But as I said, we've got a competitive group, and everyone's desperate to play. It's been such a long period. if you think back to whatever early March, whenever we broke up, everyone's been focused on the return. Once we got this, this draft of fixtures, whether it was ever going to take place or not, but we've got to this point now, and everyone's desperate to play. So, some of the conversations aren't easy for sure, because guys, as I said, they're desperate to play. But the players that are getting the chance to play and represent the team this weekend, I think they understand the sense of responsibility that comes with that. So, there's not really supporters at the stadium, but I think there's going to be lots of people watching on. It's going to be unusual, but I think the players deep down, they know what's at stake really. So, and even though I think people will talk about how are Munster more motivated than us going into this game, and is there more at stake? Like, I don't know the answer to those questions. But for us, we know that there's plenty at stake because there's lots of internal competition and lots of players want to be playing in some of the other games that we have coming down the road. So we know we're qualifying for 2 playoff games, a semi-final, wherever that is, or against whoever that is, and obviously then the Saracens quarter-final as well. So they're the 2 knockout games that we know we're in the mix for at the moment. So everyone's playing those knockout games. So it's great. Whoever gets to represent this weekend, it's a great chance.
And given it has been that sort of 5-month gap, Leo, in between games, and I know you guys have been back in sort of full contact training for the past, 3 weeks now, is there concern that because there's been such a huge gap between competitive games or any games at all, that injuries might creep in? Is that something that you've kind of had to plan for, or what's the thinking around that?
We have. Like, it's, if you think back to when we came back in initially, we came back in small groups and trained for 3 weeks, and then we took a little bit of a break because we knew there was going to be a big long block of game. Well, certainly we hoped there was going to be a big long block of games. Like as you said, like rightly said, we've built up contacts over the last number of weeks, to the point where we're able to go team on team, not quite full on, but like not far off in terms of match scenarios. With that step up in intensity and in terms of the contact piece as well, there is always you run the risk of injuries. So hopefully we have prepared the guys well. We've picked up a couple of bangs and bumps along the way in doing that, which I think is to be expected. So, but the reason we do that is to make sure that the guys are set up for when they actually go back to play. So, hopefully they're in good shape now. We'll wait and see. Even there's we went 6-2 split on the bench as well, and that's one of the reasons, because we think it'll be a bit more of a physical battle for the forwards. Normally, if you say in a pre-season scenario, you might get to change most of your team at half time. So we obviously don't get that luxury during this game. So there was a little bit of that in the thinking. Allied to the fact that there's if you think even South Africa with the World Cup with a 6-2 split, and England went to that during the Six Nations, which is interesting as well. It's just something that we wanted to look at as well. Again, there's somewhat experimentation in that, but there's certain factors why we would look to experiment.
Sorry, I'm very Leo, just on the subject of injuries, a player who really well down in Munster has had another pretty significant setback in his career, that of Joey Carbery. He's going to be out for another significant amount of time. Just how difficult, knowing him and how much he came up through the Leinster system. How you obviously feel for him. It's a really unfortunate thing that he's going through at the minute.
Absolutely, yeah. Like, you don't want to see any player suffer the injuries, but I'm sure he's working away. I know Joey's so diligent in everything that he does in terms of his preparation. So I'm assuming he's getting well taken care of down there. So, but I don't know a huge amount more than that.
Leo, you mentioned a very young second row earlier on. Can I just ask you about Ryan Baird? What convinced you that he's going to be in the starting team and is ready for a challenge of this nature?
Well, that's the thing, is about trying to put him into a game and see how he copes with the demands. So, I thought he was making really steady progress before we broke up. So, and he's got himself in really good shape as well, stayed in very good shape over the course of the break. I think people have seen sort of different glimpses of some of his athletic abilities. So it's just how he pulls it all together. Between him and Baird, like the the average age is a bit more normal between the two of them. So it's a good mix between experience and youth. So yeah, no, we'll see how they go. See with Dev on the bench there as well, gives us a lot of security there for later in the game, hopefully. So yeah, we'll just see how they go. But Ryan has trained well over the course of this lockdown period, shall we say, and he's trained well, so he deserves his opportunity.
Yeah, and just Caelan Darcy, how did you come to that back row combination? I think Caelan, at senior level anyway, hasn't started at 6.
No, yeah, we tried that a couple of times in training over the last few weeks, and Caelan worked okay, and yeah, like even with the way the makeup of that team is with Scott Fardy, like who does a lot of that 6 role as well, so which will allow Caelan to be hopefully a little bit more around the ball, like a normal 8 would be. So that would be part of the logic there as well.
Coming off a lot of games in the Pro 14, going into the quarterfinal of the Heineken, is it going to be hard to recreate that scenario with just say the 4 games coming up? Yeah,
well, normally you see if you play your 6 pool games at the end of January, and then there's a huge break to during the Six Nations where we all split up and everyone goes their separate ways, whether that's into Six Nations camp or staying with Leinster, and then we all come back together, and it usually gives a very short window in terms of preparation for a quarter final. So if anything, this is a slightly better format in many ways. The challenge is obviously they're big games, so we're concentrated on this game this weekend. We play Ulster next weekend. As I said, we know we have a semi-final, and whether we have a final or not after that will depend on what the semi-final looks like. So, but at least the group are together, and we found great benefit in that, having all the international players together here with us for an extended period, which was rare that we actually get that. So, hopefully, it will be of benefit to us. Going into some of those European games. Well, the one European game, we'll see if we have any more after that.